There are so many expressions with prepositions in English, so let's learn some, including on the way, in the way, and by the way. I'm also going to teach you the best way to memorize these expressions so that they stick in your head like glue. In my most recent video, I taught you when to use prepositions when you're talking about things like place, location, position, time. There, I teach you lots of rules for using prepositions, but I also mention that there are some expressions that simply have no rule and that we have to learn the expressions as a group of words. So that's what we're going to learn in today's lesson. Now, I could just give you a list of 30 preposition phrases and say, hey, learn them. But I want to teach you a much more effective way of learning these expressions and learning them with the correct preposition. And here's the technique that I recommend you use. Create a little story, just a few sentences, using as many of the expressions as possible that include the same preposition. It sounds so simple, but if you learn them in context, and if you learn them with other expressions that have the same preposition, it's going to be easier for you to remember them. So here's my first story using today's first preposition. Can you guess which preposition we're going to look at first? Have a look at the story and see if you can guess which one. You've got 5 seconds. Go! That's right, the first preposition is in, and here's my story. Who's in charge here? I'm not in the mood to wait. In fact, I'm in a terrible mood. I paid for this iPad in advance, but my excitement was in vain. I want to see the manager in person, now, and I'm in a hurry. I have to be at work in a minute, otherwise I'll be in trouble. Simple. So here you have 10 common expressions in English which use the word in. There's no logic why they include in, so we have to learn them as a group of words. So the expressions I want you to learn from this little story are to be in charge of something or someone. Now, a very common mistake that students make is using the word the responsible. I am the responsible of the shop. I'm the responsible of 10 people. That's incorrect in English. You cannot say the responsible. You can say I'm responsible for blah de blah, but the most common way is saying I'm in charge. I'm in charge of the shop. I'm in charge of 10 people. As I said, this is a really, really common mistake. Get my book. That fixes all the most common mistakes that students like you make in English. The next expression was, oh, and it's free. Click up there to get it. Oh, there's a link in the description. Okay, number 2 was in the mood for something. I'm not in the mood to wait, which is the same as I don't feel like waiting. And talking of mood, which is how you feel, which is obviously up and down, but if you are in a good mood, then you're having a happy moment, and if you're in a bad mood, then you are sad or angry or just feeling down. Are you in a good mood? No, I'm in a terrible mood. In this case, I'm angry because my iPad doesn't work. In advance, this is what you do when you buy something on Amazon. You pay, the money leaves your account, and then you get the product. You don't pay after you get the product. You don't pay when you get the product. You pay in advance. You pay before you get the product. If you do something in vain, it means that it was pointless. There was no need to do it. You did all this work and in the end, it wasn't necessary. You didn't need to do it. So you did it in vain. In person, if you see somebody in person, then you actually see them physically. It's not a phone call, it's not a Skype or Zoom call. It's a face-to-face interaction with that person. You see them in person. We then have in a hurry or in a rush. If you don't have a lot of time and you have to go somewhere quickly, you are in a hurry or in a rush. In a minute. This is a really common expression which means very, very soon. Can I have a cup of tea? Yeah, in a minute. I'm just recording a video. In a minute. And finally, in trouble. If I arrive late to work, I will be in trouble. We can also say in bother and also in hot water. They all mean the same thing and they all use the preposition in, so you can learn those together. I'll be in trouble. I'll be in bother. Don't do that or you will be in hot water. Okay, 10 prepositional phrases using in. Easy. Okay, let's see if you can guess the next preposition we're going to look at. Here's the story. You've got 5 seconds. Go. Yes, the preposition is on. Whenever I get a message from Ali, she's always on the way to a foreign country on business. On average, she travels once a month. I wish I could travel on such a regular basis too. Well, on second thoughts, maybe not. She wakes up every day at 5 on the dot. She's on a diet because of the stressful life she leads. She's not on good terms with her husband. And when she meets her friends, she's never on time. Once, she dropped her phone in an airport toilet on purpose just so she could sleep on board a bit instead of working. So there you have your 10 common expressions using the preposition on. And they are on the way. Now, on the way is often confused with in the way. Both expressions exist, on the way and in the way, but they have a very different meaning. If you are on the way somewhere, this means that you have left your origin and you haven't arrived at your destination yet. You're in the middle, okay? You've left the house, but you haven't arrived at the shop yet. You're on the way to the shop. In the way is referring to an obstruction. When I'm watching Liverpool on the television and my wife or my kids stand between me and the television, I say, hey, could you move? I can't see the football. You're in the way. And you can use that if you want to see something I can't see because you're in the way, or if you're walking somewhere and somebody is standing where you want to walk. You say, excuse me, because that person is in the way. Okay, so she travels on business. We can also use on holiday, on business, on holiday. Learn them together because they have the same preposition. On average, we use this. For example, if she travels 12 times a year, she travels on average once a month. And also on a regular basis, this is simply a synonym of regularly. I wish I could travel regularly. I wish I could travel on a regular basis. The next expression was on second thoughts. And this is where you think something and you say it. And then you think, oh, no, actually, I don't agree with what I've just said. So on second thoughts, in my story, I said, I wish I could travel so regularly. On second thoughts, no, I don't. So you use it to introduce a second thought because you don't agree with your first thought. On the dot. 5 o'clock on the dot means 5 o'clock. Not 1 minute past 5. Not 1 minute to 5. No, exactly 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on the dot. If you are on a diet, you are eating a specific type of food, or specifically not eating a certain type of food, you are on a diet. And if you are on good terms with somebody, it means that everything is amicable. Maybe they're not your best friend, but you're always friendly with each other. You're on good terms. The next expression in the story was on time. On time and in time both exist. If you arrive on time, then you arrive punctually. Maybe you arrive on the dot or 10 minutes earlier or 20 minutes earlier. If you arrive in time for something, then that implies that you arrive just a small amount of time before the required start time. For example, you're running and running for the bus because you're a bit late and you arrive to get the bus just in time. Just in time. On purpose is the next one, and if you do something on purpose, you do it intentionally. The opposite of on purpose is by mistake. That would be easier if they were the same preposition, but they're not. And the last preposition expression I used in the story was on board. If you are on board, it means you are inside the plane, sitting in your seat or walking down the aisle. You are on board. Okay, can you guess the next preposition? 5 seconds, go. Of course, it's by. By the way, I passed my poetry exam and it was by no means an easy exam. I had to learn 10 poems by heart. That is by far the most difficult thing I've had to do. I don't go to poetry classes, but I study by myself, as I love pottery so much. Oh, oops, I wrote pottery by mistake. I meant poetry. By the time I next see you, you will have taken your exam too. If by coincidence you take the same exam as me, by all means ask me for some advice. Okay, we've looked at in the way and on the way. By the way is also a correct English expression, and we use it to introduce a sentence. It means incidentally, when you're talking and you think of something to say, you think of something related to say, you say, oh, by the way, da da da. By no means was the next expression. In the context of the story, I said it was by no means an easy exam. By no means really means not. It was not an easy exam. I'm just accentuating the fact that in every aspect possible, it was difficult. I mean, I had to learn 10 poems by heart. If you learn something by heart, it means that you memorize it. The next expression was by far. Well, in this case, I'm saying that the exam was by far the most difficult thing I had to do. In other words, the second most difficult thing I had to do was much easier. Okay, by myself, by himself, by herself, by yourself, by ourselves, by themselves. These all use by, and it means that you do it without help from anybody else. I cooked an omelette by myself. Nobody helped me. I did it alone without help from anybody. So as we looked at with the on preposition phrases, on purpose, the opposite is by mistake. We can also say by accident. By the time, we use this usually when we're using the future perfect tense. By the time you read this message, you will have taken your exam. So we're imagining a point in the future when something happens. The future perfect tense really is a subject for a different lesson, but when we're using the future perfect, we use the expression by the time. By coincidence, okay, this is when two things happen at the same time, and it's like, whoa, that's strange in a good way. I had to do two things yesterday. I had to visit my friend to give him something, and I had to go to the shop to buy something. But when I was at the shop, I saw my friend. By coincidence, so I didn't have to go to his house. Two things happened at the same time, unplanned, it was great, so it happened by coincidence. And another expression is by chance, or by luck. You can use all three, and they all use by. By all means is the same thing as feel free to da da da. By all means, come to the party. Feel free to come to the party. By all means, ask me if you want to borrow my car. Now, as you can see with all of these prepositions, there aren't really any rules. Now, there are rules, fortunately, for prepositions when you're talking about position, location, time, and transport. For example, is it she's in the beach, she's on the beach, or she's at the beach? Well, click that video for the answer, and I'll also explain the rules that you need to know to choose the correct preposition. So I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.